Picture this. Right now, somewhere in northern Tanzania, a Hadza man is napping in the shade. He's completely done with his work for the day. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to look at a stark, honestly, kind of unbelievable contrast. We're talking about our burned-out, relentlessly scheduled modern lives versus the ancient freedoms of the hunter-gatherer. You see, the Hadza are one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups left on Earth, and they are living the exact way every human lived for about 300,000 years. And you know what? Every single researcher who has lived with them comes back saying the exact same thing. They just look happier than we are.
Okay, so let's dive right into this, because the mic drop reality here is 2.5. For 300,000 years, humans worked just 2.5 hours a day. That was the total time spent on survival chores. I mean, think about it. Most of us, trapped in this modern hustle culture, we hit that 2.5-hour mark before we've even finished our second cup of coffee. These people have never been told to be somewhere at a specific time, and they have almost none of the chronic diseases that literally plague our society today. And that incredibly short 2.5-hour workday, that covers absolutely everything. Hunting, gathering, cooking, literally every single chore that keeps them alive. Back in 1968, an anthropologist named Richard Lee actually tracked the time of the Kung Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert down to the minute. His grand total? Just about 15 hours of work per week. That's it. Your ancient ancestors did not have a boss. They didn't pay rent. They didn't even really have weekends because, well, every day was already mostly a weekend.
Which naturally leads us to a pretty intriguing question. If they only work 15 hours a week, what do they actually do all day? To really wrap our heads around this incredible freedom, we're going to take a little chronological journey. We'll walk step by step through a day in the life of an ancient human, from sunrise to sunset, and see exactly how they spend all that abundant time.
Starting with part 1, sunrise, and what we'll call the social operating system.
Imagine waking up as the sky just starts getting lighter. You're sleeping on a hide laid over flattened grass. Everything you own fits in a single bag. You're surrounded by about 30 people you've known your entire life. And the very first thing you do? You talk. Anthropologist Polly Wisner found that Bushmen spend hours every single day in just casual conversation. But here's the thing. This isn't just trivial morning gossip. This whispering network is actually the camp's operating system. It's how they figure out who took too much food yesterday, who's feeling a bit sick, or who told a great joke around the fire. It is literally their entire legal system. It maintains order and enforces strict equality without a single prison or police officer in sight.
And to manage arrogance, they use this genius, totally ruthless tool. Okay, this is a great story. In 1969, Richard Lee bought the Kronga, a massive, incredibly fat Christmas ox, as a gift. But instead of thanking him, the entire camp mercilessly mocked the ox for weeks. They kept telling him it was skinny and terrible and practically worthless. Lee was completely confused until an elder finally pulled him aside and explained, when a hunter brings home a big kill, the camp never ever celebrates. They mock it. And the bigger the kill, the harder they mock. It's this brilliant, absolutely ruthless tool to keep a hunter's ego perfectly in check, making sure nobody ever starts to feel superior to anyone else.
Which brings us to part 2, mid-morning. The hunt versus the gatherers.
So as we move into mid-morning, the energy in the camp totally shifts. The men gather up their poisoned arrows and head out for the hunt. Now, hunting is incredibly dramatic. A hunter might walk 20 miles in a single day tracking an animal. But it's also highly unreliable. Most hunters come home entirely empty-handed. While the men are out on these exhausting, flashy hunts, the actual reality of their survival totally shatters our modern stereotypes. Because it's the women, going out quietly in groups, who provide the steady majority of the camp's calories. They climb, they dig, they gather. Their work doesn't depend on luck at all. There's actually an old saying for this. The men feast you, but the women feed you.
But wait. Here is where it gets even more fascinating. The absolute most productive gatherers in the entire camp, they aren't the young, energetic adults. They are the grandmothers. Women in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s consistently bring back more food per day than young mothers do. Anthropologists actually call this the grandmother hypothesis. It's this evolutionary theory that grandmothers feeding their grandchildren is the exact reason why human females live for decades past menopause. It quite literally made our entire species vastly more successful.
Now, while all the adults are working, the children are off attending the original human school, mixed-age play. Anthropologist David Lancy found that kids spend their days naturally learning without any adult interference. A 3-year-old might be playing with a small digging stick right next to her mother. By 8, a boy is out hunting birds with a little bow. The older kids just naturally teach the younger ones.
If a kid takes a tumble, another kid picks them up. Through watching, copying, and just playing around, they absorb absolutely everything they need to survive.
Moving on to part 3, midday, focusing on social arithmetic and leisure.
As the sun hits its peak and the very first food starts returning to camp, this strict, mandatory system kicks in. Sharing isn't just nice, it is an absolute rule of survival. If a man kills a large animal, he doesn't own that meat. He distributes it to the entire camp, and get this, the hunter himself often gets the worst cut. Anthropologists actually believe that this constant sharing, this intense social arithmetic of mentally tracking who gave what to whom and who stepped up when times were tough, that's likely what built the incredibly complex human brain. For them, generosity isn't just a virtue, it is literally their savings account.
After everyone eats, the camp dramatically slows down. I mean, the middle of the day is hot, and nobody is going to work through that kind of heat. Midday is strictly for the body. People nap, they sit in the shade, maybe weave a few baskets, or casually repair some arrows. They also pick lice from each other's hair, which, yeah, takes an hour, but it's mostly just a wonderful excuse to be physically close to the people they love. There's no heavy modern taboo around bodily functions or anything like that. They just slowly go about their day, deeply, deeply rested.
But hey, they are humans, right? They're not saints. Grudges flare up, maybe a tool gets stolen, jealousies happen. But in a culture where you can pack literally everything you own in about 15 minutes, their version of conflict resolution is just voting with your feet. If tensions get too high, you simply walk away. You join another camp for a few weeks until the heat blows over. Most of us in the modern world, we absolutely cannot do that. We're anchored down by 30-year mortgages and strict jobs. But for them, extreme mobility is the ultimate conflict resolution.
Finally, part 4, evening, and the concept of the original affluence society.
As the sun starts to lower, the camps begin to reconnect. People might stroll over to neighboring camps a few miles away to trade some gossip or maybe arrange marriages. The hunters come back, the women become the camp heroes all over again, and communal cooking begins right there in the coals. Roasting roots, boiling meat with hot stones, splitting fruit. Observing this beautifully peaceful, unhurried evening routine back in the 1960s, an anthropologist coined a really profound term, the original affluent society. Now, he didn't mean early humans had material wealth. I mean, they owned practically nothing. He meant they were uniquely affluent because they possessed abundant time. They had totally mastered a life where their basic needs were met easily, which left the vast majority of their existence for leisure, for community, and for true rest.
So here is the real gut-punch reality, the trade we made to leave that life behind. Look, nobody is seriously suggesting we pack up and go back to the savannah. The modern wins are massive, right? We've got vaccines, indoor plumbing, longer lives, and an end to horrific child mortality rates. But we also inherited costs that we rarely ever talk about. We invented agriculture, sure, but we also invented bosses and bills. We inherited what researchers call the slow modern ache, spending our days working jobs we don't even believe in to pay for a life that somehow never quite arrives, all while lying awake at night comparing ourselves to total strangers on the internet. So if you take one crucial thing away from this explainer, let it be this. You and I still inhabit the exact same bodies as our ancient ancestors. We inherited their nervous systems. We have the exact same biological need for the sun, for deep sleep, for physical touch, for endless casual conversation with our tribe, and for time spent doing genuinely nothing. Evolution simply hasn't caught up with our modern hustle. Which leaves us with this final, kind of lingering thought. Deep down, we are still hunter-gatherers. We just stopped doing it. Our brains and our bodies are practically screaming out for a 15-hour work week, a tight-knit community of maybe 30 people, and a life that is rich in time rather than just rich in things. It fundamentally challenges our entire definition of what progress even means. So the very next time you feel completely burned out, just remember, it is not a failing on your part. It is literally just your inner hunter-gatherer asking for a nap in the shade. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.